Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick, and we're here for our next in the series of the UFAs available. I've asked folks to come on the show. They're going to advocate for one unrestricted free agent outside of the Ravens organization they'd like the team to pursue. Joining us today is Bob the Buildin. You know him from X/Twitter fame. Bob, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate you for having me on.
All right. So who's your guy?
So my guy is Isaiah Simmons. I know a lot of people know him as like the Arizona Giants linebacker, but I believe he can add some great value to the Ravens as his original position inside of college as like a safety nickelbacker.
I kind of forgotten that he was a safety ever. I
Yeah.
mean, he's 6'4", 238. He lists at right now.
Mhm.
He's definitely got the size to play inside linebacker. We saw him just this last year play for the Giants against the
Mhm.
Ravens. Actually, I think he got beat for a TD, maybe by Andrews on the 3rd
Yeah.
and 13 play. Yeah.
Keep him away from all pro tight ends.
But definitely a well-sized linebacker. Trying to think of the guy who had all the personal problems for the Raiders before he came to the Ravens. It's got to be a decade or more ago now. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
It
Inside,
sounds it sounds familiar.
yeah.
McLean?
I
Mc-
think
It
what
was
was his first name?
Ro-
What?
Ronald. They start with an R, I
Okay, let me
believe.
let me let me look for it while we're having this discussion. This is
Yeah.
going to drive me nuts otherwise. But Isaiah Simmons, let's talk about what needed addresses for the Ravens first.
Well, so I've been having conversations around, and I believe EDC's kryptonite when addressing this team is trying to find that Ed Reed replacement, and you're never going to find the next Ed Reed. Not with the way we draft and how our pick potential. And I believe that instead of trying to find the next Ed Reed, you use what you have, which on the current roster is Kyle Hamilton. And Raven fans might not want to hear this, but I think Kyle's best suited at free safety because the whole dynamic of our defense changed when we solidified our back end. And you got to keep that. So instead of trying to find somebody to do an upgraded version of Marcus Williams, why not just find somebody who can be not the next Kyle Hamilton? Because again, that's going to be quite hard, but to do what he did on our defense as far as playing that positionless defense. I think he brings a good. I think he adds a versatility to our safety group because our one issue with our Darius is his size,
Mm-hmm.
size and health. Those are the two big things. You can't put our Darius in the box and expect him to play run fits hard like Kyle Hamilton does. You can't. You can put him at nickel. He might show some better. What do you call it? Ability and coverage than Isaiah, but I
Mm-hmm.
think he'll give some tight ends a good run for their money. I think what the NFL is trying to do with these bigger slot receivers, it's rare that you see like a like a team like the Bills that have a really short, shifty slot receiver now. Teams are getting away from that. The days of Wes Welkers are kind of moving on. So I think he adds that to the nickel position. And the best out of the bunch, a dime backer. Who else would you rather next to Roquan in passing situations than a guy who can cover tight ends, can cover wide receivers in certain situations?
Simmons has had an interesting career so far, and
Yeah.
obviously he hasn't really played up to his first round pedigree. If you think back, he was drafted number 8 overall in
Hmm.
2020 by the Cardinals. So Cardinals have had a lot of draft picks not work out for them, obviously, but um, he's given up. Let me look at this here right now in terms of targets. Hasn't been terrible in his career. Certainly, 1,539 yards on 211 targets. So we're talking about 7 and change yards per target, but not that's not certainly not terrible for an inside linebacker. Um, did not have a good year last year for the Giants. Do you make excuses for him in terms of who was behind him, or what do you think?
Yeah. It I do feel for these top players when they get drafted to horrible situations because they come the most of the time they come to a situation where they have to be the guy. And with the Giants, they although they I think they what did they sign him or trade for him?
I
I believe they
think they
trade.
signed him, but I'm not sure because well, he would have been on his 5th-year option, but actually played 2 years with the Giants, so they must have signed him.
So I believe that even though he was a signing, he was supposed to be underrated or signing because they signed him for cheap, they expected a lot out of him. I went to that Giants and Ravens game, and that Giants defense is bad.
Mhm.
They couldn't cover a cold, and they reminded me of the Commanders a couple years ago that just really tried to rely on their front four, but you have to have some talent back there, and they relied on Isaiah a lot when they did sign him, and I think that the best situation that you can ask for a player like that is to come be a part of the solution, not come save us.
Okay.
Make stuff simple for him.
All right. Well, that's fair enough, and I think that the Ravens have made limited roles for players
Mhm.
and gotten the most they possibly can out of those. Simmons his playing time's been reduced since he was at Arizona. He's basically a full-time player. With the Giants, he's just been really a part-time player. And
Yeah,
I honestly don't know if he's been in primarily on. Looks like he's been primarily on passing downs.
yeah, they've put him all over the place, and I don't mind that, but you have to have the scheme to back it up. Like if you're gonna try to put him at linebacker, put him at nickel, like flop him in between those two positions, like have a scheme to do that with. I think they just lied up and say, "Hey, be Isaiah Simmons." But the issue is, I don't think he remembers he's Isaiah Simmons anymore because of how many bad teams he played on.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
think if we can cut out a situation for a Eddie Jackson, I think we can cut out a situation for Isaiah Simmons.
Well, I don't think the Ravens did find a situation for Eddie Jackson.
No.
Would that be fair? I mean,
And
and
we
so
tried.
yeah,
We
they did
tried.
try, but and they had a very bad situation with having
Yeah.
2 safeties, which went sour all of a sudden, and,
Hmm.
Jackson was a big risk. We didn't think Marcus Williams was. Marcus Williams had
Yeah.
been played very well when he'd been active. Um, I wanna go back to the Hamilton thing, which kinda it's the first piece in this big parking lot puzzle that's gotta be moved because it's the most
Yeah.
important. I I agree with you, and I'm really appreciating. We've had now 3 straight discussions about potential inside linebacker, safety, dime kind of candidates, and in each case, or in free safeties in some of the cases too, we start with kind of the discussion of Hamilton. Everybody's coming at it from a little different angle, but you're
Hmm.
the first one who's been a hard liner in terms of you'd really like to see Hamilton stay on the back end. I think it's what the Ravens may actually choose to do,
Yeah.
like with what happened.
It just makes the most sense because it's like you. I think EDC has to now finally realize you cannot keep trusting outside guys to come in and save you at one of your most vulnerable positions. Safety, you have to have a constant. And I know it hurts EDC to like think, oh, Marcus Williams, good character, good guy. Yeah, I finally got my guy, and all of a sudden he forgets how to play football just 1 year after injury, and it, don't create problems that you don't need to. And I think it's like trying to have the cake and have the treat after. You got Kyle Hamilton. You don't need to try to add another another true free safety so you can do all the pretty things with Kyle like blitz and put him in at linebacker. It's great. It's cool. It was nice. It was nice that you did that when he was young. Well, he's still young, but like young in his rookie deal. But now it's coming up to a point where you're gonna have to pay this guy.
Okay. Is it also a part of the equation to you
Hmm.
that Ardarius Washington may or may not really be suited to play the back end going forward?
Yes,
I have real
I'm glad you
questions
brought
about
him up.
his tackling. So I mean, wouldn't the Ravens kind of want to have a safety who could play on the back end anyway? And I certainly don't think that's Simmons. The question
Oh
would
no.
be, would you draft one anyway then?
So I tried to really keep myself to just talking about Isaiah Simmons,
Okay,
but there's another guy that I think you might like that I have a good reason behind, and his name is what's his name? Justin Simmons with the Falcons.
sure.
A lot of Raven fans wanted Justin Simmons last year, but it didn't make sense to sign a safety to it because I believe he got like an $8 million deal from
Mhm.
the Falcons. It doesn't make sense to give a backup safety $8 million when at that time we thought we had Marcus Williams come back healthy and we have to pay Kyle Hamilton. It just didn't make sense.
Mhm.
So if you if you're EDC and you're coming to a situation where, hey, I know that I just had Mike McDonald as my defensive coordinator, and he's bringing to the NFL by storm with this module defense. And I'm having Orr now who wants to adopt that same defense of, it's almost like a positionless defense, but guys in the back and they all know each other's jobs. So why don't you bring a guy who made a career as being versatile like Justin Simmons? Justin Simmons has played free safety, strong safety, sometimes lined up as nickel, but not as much as Kyle has. But it's a good, and he's a veteran. I think he's 32 right now. I think the best thing for Simmons' career, the Justin, is to play with a guy that can do all the amazing things he was doing when he was younger. But now you can line him up as strong safety, free safety. You can interloop those two guys. Because I'm not an Ardarius. I appreciate Ardarius Washington for what he's done for the Ravens this year. He stepped up when Marcus Williams was not playing well, when Eddie Jackson forgot about football.
Yep.
And doing the locker room stuff. But I don't trust his durability, and I don't like the limitation he puts us in as far as scheme. I know Orr gets a little nervous when he has to put Washington down in the box to guard against a heavy front, but he has to put Kyle back there because, hey, a bomb can go any minute out of Pickens versus Steelers, or a team, or Joe Burrow with Chase on the outside. So like matchups matter. And
I was impressed by how Washington played against bigger men this year. Not only in terms of coverage, where I thought he was good, but in terms of his willingness to just stick his pads in there and neck in there a lot of times and try and make tackles. He's not exceptionally proficient at that. It's probably the weakest part of his game is tackling. And I think if I had to pick a direction, I wouldn't take the over on him overperforming my expectation from a tackling perspective in 2025. Mm-hmm. So just size purposes, potential injury reasons, there are good reasons I think why Ardarius should probably gravitate back towards the slot. And it's just unfair for us to, in some ways to have that bias, I suppose, when he's had a very good year, one of the better years in the NFL among safeties. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like slot is going to be the position where he can help the Ravens most.
Absolutely, because like you can always protect him in the slot, and I'm not saying he doesn't need protection, but you can protect him from himself. Because you say, yeah, he'll throw his neck and his back into a tackle, make sure it lays the guy out. I think the problem is his neck and his back, because he's injured both of those things. And
Bob Sanders,
perfect example. But I think the best way he could protect himself and the Ravens could protect him is you can line him up at safety, but like I think especially with the Mollett, we didn't sign him to a multi-year deal. He's not going to be here, I believe.
He's gone.
You can get more value from Washington.
Didn't you know it's possible to get THC shipped right to your door? Mood delivers premium 100% federally legal THC directly to you. I'm talking about delicious high-potency gummies, top-shelf flour, home-baked cookies, vapes, anything you'd find at a dispensary, you can now order online and have it shipped quickly, discreetly, and conveniently right to your door. And every Mood product is made from pesticide-free cannabis grown on America's best small farms at prices that won't destroy your wallet. Best of all, not only is every Mood product backed by a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get 20% off their first order with code RAVENS. So head to mood.com/ravens, check out their online dispensary, and let Mood help you discover your perfect mood. And don't forget to use promo code RAVENS when you check out to save 20% on your first order.
At nickel and swap him with a Marlon to get him more outside reps, because Marlon had to play in the slot, and you can get more bodies to rotate. Get guys from that three safety, that nickel, strong safety, free safety interloop that we like to do. Get more guys that can do more things.
I don't on this particular team. My position would be this team does not need additional versatility. They need to put their playmakers where they can do them the best job. But I really don't think they need even one more player who can play like 3 different positions on defense, or 2 different even. I mean, I'm happy they have Marlon because I think he can already play slot, outside corner, and safety if they needed him to. If there was some emergency, I think they could go to Marlon at safety,
Yes.
provided they could figure out the cornerback situation without him. But I think the ideal position particularly for 25 with the Ravens so thin at corner is going to be on the outside for Marlon. So
Yes.
now I'm looking for a slot, and I think the easiest place I can get the slot is one of my 2 existing corners. I'm unlike you. Maybe I'm unwilling to give Justin Simmons the slot role on
Yeah.
any
Yeah. Full
important
time,
route.
no.
Yeah.
Full time, no.
Yeah.
It's one of those icing on case. Hey, he can play the slot in certain
Okay.
situations, but full time slot, no. Neither will Isaiah. Full time slot, no. Um, I did speak to a lot of people about the slot and outside dilemma, and it is an issue because right now we're in need of a guy to play the slot full time just so Marlon can go back to his outside spot,
Mhm.
and we're also in need of somebody to replace Brandon Stevens's snap percentage.
Yeah. No, it's a good
Who-
point. And Stevens heat up a lot of snaps, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So I think they'll get a corner from college. I think that TJ
Mhm.
Tampa gets a chance this year
Yes.
to play. The guy I don't see as being the right choice for going forward is JAD. I think if the Ravens go into the season with JAD as their 3rd corner, they'll really regret it.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think they're banking on him as well. I think Tampa is the guy. He had his redshirt year that's famously done here. He got
mhm.
the trust. John does make sure like, hey, these corners just need to make sure they can prove themselves. Like, unless you're a first round guy, don't expect to just get snaps right away. So I believe TJ's prime to get his chance. Um, I think he might get a long leash if he has success early.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the main issue was the slot. I think that they need to come into this draft trying to find a good slot corner.
All right, we got to take it back to Isaiah Simmons now for a
Yes.
minute. So who's going to is anybody on the current roster really that we already don't expect to be gone? So we're including Mollett in that
Mhm.
group. We are expecting him to be gone. Is there anybody who will lose playing time or lose their roster spot because of the presence of a Isaiah Simmons?
I honestly, I don't believe anybody really loses playing time because of signing him. Because think about it, what exactly are we needing him to do? We need him to give us snaps at dimebacker, some snaps at nickel, in when we go nickel, and some snaps at strong safety. Marcus Williams is gone. Kyle is going to free safety, so that leaves a vacuum at strong safety. So in our base 3-4, I believe he can play too high with Kyle and definitely be a box warrior with in our base defense. We don't go 3-4 much, but like just to paint the picture, he can do that. In
Okay, so
nickel,
yeah.
what?
No, base defense. I would really not be good with Isaiah Simmons as one of the 2 safeties in the base defense. I'm totally not okay with that. I hear you.
Mhm.
I really do. But he's been a pure, and I think with good reasons. They're trying to tap into the coverage strength that he brings
Yes.
at that inside line. I mean, he's almost basically a dime back at this point in
Yeah.
his career. A little bit more than that, but he's a second and long, an obvious passing in situations otherwise kind of player. There's no way I'd put him on the back end in the base defense.
Right
That's
away,
just
no.
it's yeah.
I think that they can work his way up to that type of trust to play safety, to do all that versatile stuff. When I speak about Isaiah, I want to make sure that it's known like he's a project. He still is. No, since when he went to the Cardinals, they weren't able to unlock it. Giants weren't able to unlock it. I think this place in Baltimore would be able to bring the most out of him. And
Okay, 6th year in the league now, so
yeah,
it's kind of late to be a project. Okay, even though
yes,
he's still, I think he turns. You said he turns 27 this year. Yeah, he's
yeah.
26 and a half right now. July he turns
Mhm.
27. So the guy I think he's actually probably replacing because got to try and answer that question. I think it's
Yes.
Chris Board. I think he's the one who loses
Yeah.
snaps in that, and he had a pretty decent year last year
Yeah.
in terms of what he did for the Ravens.
Simpsons, he stepped up for Simpson definitely, and I think as I replaced that special team productivity as well. He's a good height, weight, speed guy to play it.
Has he been playing a lot of special teams? I actually don't know. I can look it up right now. Looks like he's played a fairly good amount. He's been a 4-unit special teamer, not a 5 or a 6. So he's not on the field goal block or the punt coverage. Sorry, wait a minute. Check that. He's kick return, kick coverage, punt return, but not punt coverage. That's interesting. Usually you're a 4-unit guy if you're a 3-unit guy.
I think he'd be on the punt coverage here because he has. If you look at the height, weight, he has a similar build to Simpson. And if we're gonna put like body sizes on the front line, I think he'd fit that outside not outside, but within the line, the outside guy. I forgot the name of it.
Overhang, you're saying, or I'm not sure exactly what you mean. But not an outside linebacker, but the outside guy. I don't know what you mean exactly. So it's kind of a second outside guy they bring down to rush the passer sometimes, or what do you mean like that?
Oh, I said what would I say? Yeah, I thought we were talking about punt for a second. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're okay. You're okay. The gunner, you're talking about that on punts.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess you could, they can always try big physical ones like who was the guy? Adalys Thomas are nice to have there. Okay, so let's talk production right now, and I don't know that we can nail this down to quantitatively. So I certainly wouldn't try in terms of tackles or anything. But what downs and packages would you expect him to play in?
So I can give you two answers to this. At bare minimum, and my expectations as far as hey, this guy's a great fit. Bare minimum, I expect production to be a special teams guy. Can come in and give you some dime snaps when you want to take out a linebacker. If we haven't really addressed linebacker 2, or we still want to push the Simpson issue as far as hey, we think he's going to be great this year. I can see them both rotating every now and then, especially versus in coverage situations. But like we talked about earlier, best case scenario, I could see him getting some snaps at nickel versus especially we're facing teams with tall slot receivers. I can see him getting snaps there, being in some diverse blitz coverages. I think he's a perfect guy for that. And yeah, definitely linebacker nickel if we're getting the best out of him.
Okay,
linebacker.
So maybe a big nickel against a flex tight end. So you teams in 12, you put in Simmons and in this on a slot guy. Okay, well, I could see that certainly, and they could maybe tap into what he does in that regard. Let's talk money. How much are you willing to pay him?
So I was playing around with over the cap for a bit. I think they can give him a 3-year, $6 million deal with a lot of that $6 million being bonuses, like a roster bonus if he makes it into year 2. I'd be probably throwing a void year to complete the 3rd year. Like, hey, if year 1 he gives you the production of okay, this is a special teams guy. This guy's going to be a special teams warrior for you, and he can come in and give you some solid, decent snaps. You can allow him to maybe go into year 2, but he's not going to hit those roster bonuses, so he won't get that full $6 million. But if he's a guy that hey, this guy can be an important part of our defense as a role player, then that year 2 where he hits those roster bonuses, you can negotiate, talking about, hey, by then you should be 29 because that's 2 years in, and how about you want to turn that void into a full year to extend, or make it another 2-year deal. So a 3-year $6 million contract with $1 million roster bonus in the year 2 would be perfect.
Okay, so you're talking minimal cost. He made $2 million this last year with the Giants, and I would have thought slightly above the vet min is right. I don't have a problem paying for 2 years, but the Ravens have rarely made a 3-year deal with a special teams player. So what they've often done is with Levine and McClellan and guys like that have been around forever. They get a 2-year deal, small sliver of increment to the vet minimum. Yeah. And so maybe they make $200,000, $300,000 above the vet minimum. And they get that as a signing bonus, and then they sign for 2 years at the vet minimum to go along with that. I'm 3 years, $6 million. It's not like you couldn't structure that to be look a lot like that in terms of being a very close to a vet man deal. I'm not willing to go very much above the vet minimum for a player like Isaiah Simmons. I think he's
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. If it's maybe it's a recency bias as far as like, hey, I still remember him as the college player of what he could do, and I'm kind of I'm ignoring the early mishaps because of the team situation. But I understand if EDC comes up from a cheaper standpoint, like, hey man, you haven't done much with the Cardinals or the Giants. You're a vet minimum player, or around that ballpark.
Yeah.
With some
come in and turn your career around with our organization.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to
a lot
of
careers.
All right, Bob, a pleasure talking football with you. Tell folks where they can talk football with you online.
I appreciate it. Well, I'm Bob the Building on Twitter. Definitely join some spaces every now and then to talk ball with people, and can't wait to join the community some more. I know I've been away. I just got out the military, so I'm adjusting right now. And
Which branch?
I was in the Army.
Okay, where were you stationed?
My last duty station, I was at Fort Hood.
Fort Hood,
great
okay.
place. Yep.
Okay.
And then I just became a season ticket holder this season, so you'll definitely be seeing a lot of me in the club section. I just got a good deal on that, so if anybody wants to say drop down, say hi, I'll be there.
All right. Well, you're people in the fancy seats like yours. They usually keep us out of there by asking us for tickets and whatnot. But I do appreciate it, Bob, and thanks for being so prepared and into this. A high level discussion. I really appreciate it. Other folks out there, if you want to be like Bob and be on the show, please hit me up. DMs are always open on Twitter. I want to hear about the one UFA you'd like to bring to Baltimore. Otherwise, anything you can do to promote the show in terms of even telling one additional person is the kind of word of mouth advertising we appreciate. You're going to be the best person to judge who else would like to listen to this show. Bob, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.